Well, it's 1 p.m. in central New Jersey, so I think we can get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mental Health for Everyone, Grief, Loss, and Seeing Clearly webinar session. Today is part one of a three-part community of learning series on facing mental health challenges for urban Indians. This interactive three-part series will provide special focus on mental health issues ranging from coping with grief and loss to chronic stress and alcohol and substance misuse. We're honored and ecstatic to have you here today. We kindly ask that you place your name, your organization, your tribal affiliation, and your title into the chat box below. In addition, we welcome any feedback you'd like to provide about your webinar experience in our survey. They'll be placed in the chat as well for easy access. My name is Omar Kasani, and I am the Technical Assistance and Research Intern here at NCUIH. I will be hosting the session with my wonderful colleague, Dr. Mark Clark, and our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Bonnie Duran, who you will get to meet in just a bit. If you're unfamiliar with NCUIH or this is your first time joining us, NCUIH is known as the National Council of Urban Indian Health, and we're the national nonprofit organization devoted to the support and development of quality, accessible, and culturally competent health and public health services for American Indians and Alaska Natives living in urban areas. NCUIH is the only national representative of the 41 Title V urban Indian organizations, or UIOs, under the Indian Health Service in the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act. NCUIH strives to improve the health of the over 70% of the American Indian and Alaska Native population that lives in urban areas, supported by quality, accessible health care centers. Next slide, please. Before we jump in to the session, here's a quick breakdown of our session. We're going to be running this webinar for about an hour or so. Dr. Duran is going to give us a presentation for about 20 minutes or so, followed by an engaging activity she has planned for the remainder of the time. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end, so make sure to start thinking of questions or comments you want to ask during the session. Make sure you get comfortable in your seat because this is going to be a great event. Next slide, please. Just to go over some quick housekeeping, this webinar is being recorded and all mics have been muted unless otherwise directed. We're going to ask that you turn on your camera just to allow for more interaction, a little bit more face-to-face. And as mentioned before, we're going to be running for about an hour or so. So we should finish around 2 p.m. Eastern time. Questions can be typed into the chat box below. And at the end, we will go through these questions. If you're interested in continuing or reviewing this session, the slides and recording will be available on the NCUIH Mental Health Webinar Series page on our website. At the end, as mentioned again, we do have an evaluation that we ask you to follow and complete. It's a quick but very beneficial survey, and it helps us understand our strengths and areas of improvement and opportunity in our session. Ultimately, these surveys allow us to better serve you. Asking a question is quite simple. All you do is scroll to the bottom of your screen, hit the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and then type your question or comment into the chat box, and then hit enter to make it appear to everyone. Next slide, please. Once again, please don't forget to take our survey to help improve our services to you. Our splendid Cebu has put the survey link into the box. All right, so as mentioned before, we're joined by the wonderful Dr. Bonnie Duran. Dr. Duran is a professor in the Schools of Social Work and Public Health at the University of Washington in Seattle. She has worked in public health and social care research, education, and practice with Native Americans / Indigenous peoples for over 45 years. Dr. Duran is also a Buddhist mindfulness practitioner and teacher. She teaches long and short retreats and advanced programs at the Insight Meditation Society in Massachusetts and the Spirit Rock Meditation Center in California, where she's also on the Guiding Teachers Council. On that note, I will ask that you join me in a virtual round of applause to welcome Dr. Bonnie Duran. And right before I hand off the mic to Dr. Duran, a knowledge check is going to appear right on your screen. We're going to ask that you take a moment or so to just fill it out. And then the next voice you hear is going to be the wonderful Dr. Bonnie Duran. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. We can get to, oh, we have to wait a minute for the knowledge check. Is that what we're doing, Omar?
Yeah, it's about 30 seconds or so.
Okay. Thank you for joining us this morning. I bet there's people all over the US joining us. And that's a good thing. Okay, we could get started whenever you're ready.
Yep, we're ready.
Okay, so maybe next slide, please. Okay, so one of the advances in research in higher ed now, or one of the critical perspectives that most BIPOC, global people are thinking about is that there's no such thing as knowledge developed outside of a social location. And I just wanted to tell you mine. I am a mixed race Opelousas and Coushatta person. My parents moved to the Bay Area in California from Louisiana. I'm a first generation college student, and I thank the civil rights and the women for getting me into college. I wouldn't have been without those incredible, important social, the social impact of that movement. My specialty is doing community-based participatory research, or what does authentic community engagement look at? And I have also done a fair amount of psychiatric epidemiology, which I'm feeling not so comfortable with nowadays. But I also, what actually got me through graduate school was that I started practicing mindfulness meditation and Buddhist psychology in 1982. And now I teach, as you can see, I just put a link to an American Indian retreat or an indigenous retreat I'm teaching at Spirit Rock at the beginning of September. And there's a lot of opportunities for people to practice meditation for free. So next slide, please. So we're going to talk about today the connection between past and current intergenerational trauma and mental health, mindfulness as a particular response to that, how do we regain resilience, peace, and wisdom, and a little experience of mindfulness and loving kindness meditation. Next slide. So what is historical trauma? We know what it is. I mean, all of us who live in Indian country understand what happened to our tribes during solar colonialism. But, those historical events and present day events have a particular physiological expression in the body. And I just want to talk about that for a second. Next slide. Okay, two wolves in the heart. I know many of you have heard this story. It's attributed to an American Indian, actually a Cherokee medicine man, and actually this very, one of the founders of Western mindfulness, Sharon Salzberg, asked me a couple months ago, hey, can I still say that this is a Cherokee medicine man or what? And I'm actually working with the Cherokee tribe right now with some beloved colleagues on a HEAL grant, an opioids grant. So I got to ask the Cherokee Nation directly, do you mind the medicine man being attributed to Cherokee? And they said, yeah, we do. So I'll just say, this is the story, I'm sure many of you know it, of a medicine man walking with his grandson. And he's telling his grandson, I have two inside of me. One of them is very mean and angry all the time and doesn't care whether he hurts himself or others. And the other wolf is very kind and is very generous and thoughtful and really out to help people. And the medicine man said, son, and I have these, everyone on earth has these two wolves inside of them. You too, grandson, you have these two wolves. And the grandson got all scared and asked his grandfather, how do we know which wolf will win, grandfather? How do we know? And the grandfather looked very calmly on his grandson and said, the one that you feed. Next slide, please. So that actually accounts or a way to open up into the negativity bias. This is a neuropsychological, diagnosis for all of us. We're always looking for the saber-toothed tiger in the forest rather than looking at what's happening very directly in all of our lives. You know, so this neuropsychological common event that we all do, we're always scanning for bad news, we over focus on it, we overreact to it, we turn it quickly into implicit memory, which is unconscious memory, and we can create vicious cycles with ourselves and others. You know, if we don't realize this negativity, you know, negativity bias and really try to overcome it. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is an example of some of the historical trauma that we have all been through. You know, this is science, you know, as you can see, it was published in a medical journal in 1922. And a lot of the science before the present day, I'm sure there's still some present day science that does this, but it tries to justify and, you know, it tries to say that in order for people to be healthy, and this is in global health too, I think, in order for people to be healthy, they need to be as Western and excuse, you know, this very broad term, or as white as possible. And this is one example that, you know, Western medicine, Western patriarchal medicine really tried to wipe out native traditional healing practices, you know, across the whole country. Next slide. So this is another example. Look at this, a comparison of the intelligence of Mexican and mixed and full-blood native children. You can imagine what they found was that the more Western Anglo they were, European they were, the smarter they were, which, you know, I don't know about that. Next slide, please. So I have this excellent, I have a colleague, Karina Walters, Dr. Karina Walters, and she did this excellent timeline of before 1492 and after 1492 to really document some of the historical trauma that we all know about. So many of you know about QR codes. You can take your phone, go to the camera and point the camera at that QR code, and it'll take you to the website. It's actually Native American philanthropy that has this wonderful history in it, but you can go there with this QR code. Next slide. So what are the symptoms of historical trauma? All of the you know, historical events that's happened. It is sheer exhaustion, burnout, and overwhelm, hopelessness and powerlessness and resignation, a pattern of not speaking up followed by a sense of resentment, inability to recognize signs of resilience and resistance in oneself or one's community, and a withdrawal from relationships with one's community. Next slide. So how do we really deal with these signs of historical trauma? And, you know, let me say very quickly, I have a dear friend, Sherry Hamby, who is like the researcher about domestic violence. And she's come out and said she believes that everyone who is born has some element of trauma in their lives. And according to this Buddhist psychology, that's very, very true. So we definitely have it, and all of our relatives have it too. So how do we make things better in the mind, out in the world, or in the body? How can we practice that? How can we practice making things better? And how can we really look for the positive things and the things that we're learning? Next slide. So our three greatest psychological needs are safety, satisfaction, and connection. And this is the things that we bring to grief, right? To grief and sorrow. Next slide. So strengthening mental resources. So safety, one element of safety is us being safe with ourselves. And that is, you know, this is really addressing that two wolves story. This is a way to really make sure that we're looking at the good wolf and that we're strengthening the good wolf in our hearts and in our minds, in our conceptual awareness. And what we're trying to do here is do meditation practices or just everyday practices that strengthen that sense of safety and also strengthen the very, very positive mental resources, because, you know, that really addresses our 3 core psychological needs. And this is done by, and it's so interesting, within very ancient Buddhist psychology, there's a list of 10 qualities that you want to develop and make stronger. And I found them, actually, I was working with Sitting Bull College. My sister works actually at Sitting Bull College and in social work. And she sent me this, that some places in Indian country, I think all of Native culture also is trying to strengthen these positive qualities in order to make our lives happier, in order for us to take care of each other, really. And at the end, I'll show you resources about how to strengthen these mental qualities of compassion, of gratitude, and of mindfulness. And, you know, being more present with these things as they arise, it allows us to strengthen these characteristics in us. Okay, next slide. Here is the mindfulness version of that Sitting Bull College list. There are 10 paramis within Buddhist psychology, and all of this stuff is free. So you can actually use that QR code and go to a place where you can download this excellent book for free. And that will give you some ideas about how to strengthen these positive mental qualities like generosity and morality and renunciation of bad things and wisdom and energy and effort and all of these very positive qualities. Next slide. So our first psychological need is for satisfaction. So what we do to satisfy ourselves is to notice when we have a chance to feel grateful, and when we notice we have a chance to feel like we are worthy. Like right now, all of you are calling in from Native organizations, or maybe most of you are anyway, but you're doing this in order to bring some resources to your community. I want you to feel feelings of worth right now. You know, we need to do that, is to realize when we're doing something very positive, see those feelings of worth and let it soak us in. That changes a state to a trait. So please, I want you to all feel very worthy right now for the work that you're doing. And, you know, the fact that you are trying to help yourself and so many other people. And feel grateful to National Council of Urban Indian Health. Let's feel a little gratitude to them for being so meticulous and providing training to everyone. Okay, next one. So self-compassion. So this is also a way to invoke safety for ourselves. And this I just heard about 6 months ago, and I thought it was one of the best advice that I'd ever heard for people who are dealing with, you know, dealing with people who are suffering. And I'm sure all of us are, right? That's what we do for a living, is we are holding people who are suffering. And, you know, we have a lot of burnout going on right now, right? And this is one way to really lessen burnout and strengthen our ability to be with people. So what we do is, when we're with other people that are suffering, you know, one thing we usually do is we focus on their suffering and how they're feeling and try to soothe them that way. But there's another way to be with them. You can do self-compassion for yourself and for them at the same time, you know, just by phrases like, I care deeply for your suffering. May you be free from pain and suffering. I care deeply. May you be free. And just to, you know, keep that in the backdrop. And actually, compassion feels good. So it actually allows you to be much more present, and it allows us to emit an aura of real love for people. And it allows us to be more present. Pain, focus on their absolute desire to be well. I care deeply for your suffering. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be happy. Okay, next. I thought that's an excellent, that's what I'm doing nowadays, and it's really working. So resources for connection. This is the third psychological need of that we have, is for connection. And we know our native ceremonies are an excellent way to be part of a community that's teaching, for the most part, really wholesome and wholesome mental qualities. And, you know, we have different ceremonies. Our research center at the university has monthly sweat lodges, dancing, singing, vision quest, hamblecha, Sundance. I did Sundance for about a dozen years at Pine Ridge, which was absolutely a wonderful, enriching event. I hope to get back down there. Drumming, rattling, and meditation and retreat can be places for deep connection. Next. So this is an important element. We have two knowledge systems. I think mostly Indigenous people know this, but it's good to remember this, is that I used to say that one is the right linear knowledge system was Western. That's not true. I think all you know, ethnicities across the globe have a conceptual, count things, name things, you know, knowledge system. But all of us also have another knowledge system, and that is an intuitive awareness knowledge system. And that is not concepts, and that's not adding things up. You know, we can use concepts that can be useful in meditation, but we don't hang on to those. We let mindfulness be the data collection instrument for intuitive wisdom. And that's how, you know, when wisdom arises and we can see clearly what's happening, that's what eases a lot of our suffering. So that's what we're doing with mindfulness. We are making stronger our intuitive knowledge system, which is the knowledge system that I think a lot of our ceremonies also make stronger. Next. So mindfulness is defined, I think maybe by John Kabat-Zinn or whatever, as a sustained present moment awareness of the inner and the outer world. You know, can we be present right now with what's happening, rather than slipping into thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future? And it's aided by, you know, having compassion and acceptance. Those are actually characteristics or dimensions of mindfulness that are made stronger. You know, mindfulness is a mental factor too, and we make it stronger by practicing it. Okay, next. So what are the origins of mindfulness? It's an epistemology, you know, a knowledge system of the global South. You know, and it was created in 600 BC by this guy, the Buddha. There is absolutely no God or higher power in Buddhist psychology. So you can be any spiritual tradition and practice this, I think. And and it's so interesting. As we know, mindfulness is huge in Western psychology right now. I just read a paper that an annotated bibliography that said it is the most successful intervention for mental health anywhere. And I can share that article with NCUIH, and they can give it all out to you. But it's amazing that 2,600 years ago, this was invented, and Western psychology is just catching up to it right now. You know, I think that that's indigenous knowledge systems too. You know, we were thought so primitive and uncivilized because we had a gender spectrum, because we knew we were nature, things like that, right? So this is another example of knowledge systems of the global South that are getting much more prominence. Yes. Okay, next one. And mindfulness, what it does, it's like an objective way to look at what's happening in our heart and mind. It doesn't obsess with things, but it also doesn't deny it. You know, it really is the middle way. And next. So this is one thing to remember, whether when you're meditating or not. And once you start doing mindfulness meditation a lot, you'll find that you are actually being mindful 24/7. That's what happens, is that it really spills over into our daily life, which is a wonderful thing. And when you are struggling, when you are really struggling with something, this is what we can do in the pause, the RAIN formula. And that is, first recognize it, first pause and say, wow, what's happening right now? I'll tell you, my partner had worked for the Muckleshoot tribe for many years, and he retired a year ago. And I'm having a lot of reactivity to him being home 24/7, right? I might not be the only one. I love him to death, but him figuring out retirement, I'm always have to stop and say, oh, you're feeling a lot of frustration and anger right now. And you have to accept it. Yes, I have the mental factors of anger and frustration inside of me, and I'm seeing them right now. And then we can investigate it. What is this like? How does it feel in the body? How does it feel emotionally? Energetically, how does it feel? Cognitively, what stories or beliefs does it bring up? And motivationally, what does it want us to do? What does it urge us to do? But we need to take that step back and say, oh, here's a unwholesome emotion arising. Let me bring RAIN to this. And then finally, non-identification. All of these things that we experience, one thing that I do when I'm experiencing it, like anger or depression or grief, is I sit back and I say, I am part of an exquisite club across the globe of everyone who is experiencing grief right now. So we step back, and grief feels like this. And then just imagine how many people on the planet also have grief right now, because it's not personal, Grief is a manifestation of being born and being human, and it too is a part of nature. And we open to that and accept it. And it's part of our common humanity, is one way to think about it. And, we apply it to what we're grieving about, but also know that this isn't really personal. Okay, next. So here are some guided meditations for, and are you going to make these available? Omar, do you know if NCUIH is going to make these guided meditations available to everyone?
Yeah, the entire slide deck is going to be posted online alongside this this recorded webinar.
Okay, excellent. So this is, I know a lot of the mindfulness and the mental health, the medical industrial complex, as we're calling it nowadays, is the John Kabat-Zinn mindfulness-based stress reduction. This is and what I'm giving you here is 7 guided meditations provided by this guy, the Venerable Analayo. He's a monk. He's actually from Germany, but he has spent many, many years in Sri Lanka learning, and he's a scholar. What he's looking at is exactly what was taught 2,600 years ago. How did that person who invented mindfulness teach it? And this is the 7 spokes of Satipatthana. These are the 7 things that you look at while you are meditating. Yeah, okay, next slide. And when we do this practice regularly, the impact on us is that it improves our concentration and our ability to focus and have a stable attention. It ups our sensory clarity. So a lot of times we're looking at what's happening within us or even outside of us, and we have a lot of clarity in that moment. Our clarity is being impacted by, the very strong, unwholesome emotions that we all have. Yes. And then the third thing that is so wonderful that mindfulness practice generates is equanimity. And that is an ability to be with what is happening, even if it is harmful, without having it drive us crazy. Yeah. Okay, next slide. And then, okay, in addition to mindfulness meditation, this is also a meditation actually, it's called the Brahmaviharas, or the divine abodes. There's 4 divine abodes. They are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And we can actually, this is how you strengthen all of those positive qualities, is you do meditation where you just say to yourself, over and over again, certain phrases, and you can change the phrases to make them more however. And I think we have a few slides that show what the phrases are. So what's the next slide? Okay, so these are the underlying principles of actually making any progress, spiritual or psychological progress with mindfulness meditation. You have to do no harm, and when you're going to a meditation teacher, that's a really important thing to figure out. Is this person an ethical person or not? If they're not an ethical person, you should probably not take training with them. And we're cultivating the good, and we're purifying our mind. Okay. So here are the loving kindness phrases, and you can absolutely feel free to change them in a way that makes more sense for you. May I be safe and protected from inner and outer danger. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. May I take care of myself easily. And what you do in a metta or loving kindness meditation is just, take a seat on a chair or on a meditation cushion or even walking, and just say these phrases to ourselves over and over again. And our mind will wander and, things like that. But that's fine. Just notice, oh, my mind has wandered, and come back to saying the phrases. And actually, if you start mindfulness meditation with some loving kindness or other divine abode meditation, it actually makes the mindfulness stronger. It actually ups the clarity of the mindfulness. So a lot of people will do 5 or 10 minutes of this and then start doing straight mindfulness meditation. Okay, next. So those are the phrases for loving kindness. Here are the phrases for compassion. I care deeply for my suffering. May I hold my suffering with kindness and gentleness. May I be free from pain and suffering. And, that actually relates to what I said earlier about holding your patients or your family or your kids or parents or anyone, holding them with compassion. And so when something is coming up that might be provoking a negative mind state, we can come to try to bring compassion to the forefront and just say, I care deeply for your suffering. May we hold your suffering with kindness and gentleness. May you be free from pain and suffering. And again, you can play with those to make them more relevant to you. Okay, next. Sympathetic joy is being happy when other people are happy. Usually when we're happy, when our friends do something good or something good happens to them, we get jealous, right? But with strengthening sympathetic joy, we can be as happy as they are when something good happens to them. Next. And then equanimity, which is among all spiritual traditions, one of the highest things to hold. And that is to be able to be with what's happening with some balance and to stay present, even though we have no control over what is happening. So here are some of the phrases for equanimity. Next. And this is just actually, I love this poster that was done by the Seattle Indian Health Board, and the Urban Indian Health Institute did some excellent COVID posters that I really love. I just wanted to throw that in there. And then, forgiveness is part of our self-healing and our self-love. So forgiving ourselves and forgiving others too. And I love this. This is Desmond Tutu and his daughter. And, this says that we can absolutely forgive someone or some people, but decide not to renew the relationship with them. And forgiveness is really for our own state of mind. Okay, next. So, you know, I think I said this earlier, but when we do a lot of mindfulness and do mindfulness essentially all day long, what happens is we get three huge insights, and that nothing in this conditioned world is perfect. So when something isn't perfect, we usually get mad. It's like, of course, why would I get mad? Everything is imperfect. The second is that everything is impermanent. You know, you're mad at somebody right now, probably in 2 months, that person's going to be a little bit different, you know, or the things that happened 10 years ago, the people or organization that made you mad are probably changed by now, because everything changes all the time. And then the third is that sense of, oh, mitapiasan. I love it. I mean, I think this is an incredibly important element, and this is so indigenous to Indian country as well, and that is that we are all related. You know, nothing is personal, we are all related. Okay, that's it. So this is a little song. I think the message of the song is that our happiness needs to be from inside of us, because we know the outside world, because of all of the racism and sexism and homophobia and ageism, and which we also have too. You know, that's an important reason to practice mindfulness, is so we can see that in ourselves and not act on it. Okay. Do we have time for this? We could always skip this, but what do you think? Should we play it?
I think we could play the first bit of it.
Yeah, I think there's
Okay.
time.
Okay. You can all dance, get some exercise.
This
I wish I could
joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this strength that I have, this strength that I have, this strength that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this love that I have, this love that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this love that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Singing, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this pride that I have, this pride that I have, this pride that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this pride that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this peace.
Awesome. That was really upbeat, I gotta say. Thanks for that, Dr. Duran.
Yeah, it's a wonderful video you can dance to, and it has a really sweet message to it. Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. And the video, for if anyone wants to access it, it's going to be posted right in alongside all the other resources provided by Dr. Duran, which we've compiled some of them right here in this slide. Dr. Duran, did you want to talk a little bit more about this before transitioning to the activity?
Well, I mean, here's just some academic material on historical trauma. I'm sure all of us have shared personal experiences of that. And I wanted to give the additional resources of that mindfulness meditation, but I guess I did in the presentation. You'll be able to look at it there. I actually also might put it in the chat too. Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
So that's the end. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
And if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. or feel free to unmute, and we invite you to do either, whatever you're comfortable with.
Hello. Hi, this is Paula Carter. Thank you, Dr. Duran, for putting this on today. I've got to apologize. I joined. I had a call, so I had to join a little late. The resources and slides, are those going to be available?
Yes, they are. I think NCUIH is going to send them out to their listserv or to everyone. I don't know if it'll just be the people in here, but yes, they will be. The PowerPoint will be circulated.
Yeah, everyone registered today, and also we'll post the PowerPoint and a link to the YouTube of this presentation to our webpage, and we'll send the links to that to everyone registered today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very powerful. Thank you for bringing it to us.
So I just posted guided meditations by the Venerable Analayo, a link to them. You can, if you go to the bottom of them, you can download them all at the same time. And his book on it, you know, that's the real mindfulness book. So yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Jack, thank you. Thank you so much, Bonnie. I'm curious. We have 20 minutes left. Did you want to use
oh,
some
that's
of
right.
the
I'm
time
going to
for
do a guided. That's right.
activity?
I'm going to
Okay.
do a guided
Thank you.
meditation. Yes. Okay. So let's take a seat, a comfortable seat. You probably want to. One thing that helps alertness is not to lean your back against the back of the chair, to sit up a little bit more. And so I'm going to lead us in a guided 4 elements meditation. This is a very indigenous concept of, hey, guess what? We are nature. So let's do that. Okay, coming into a whole body awareness. Let's just feel our whole bodies. So let's do a body scan for earth element. And earth element is hardness and density. And what we're going to do is scan the body. You don't necessarily need to feel the hardness or density, but whatever sensations are being offered to your awareness, that's absolutely fine. So let's start with our heads, earth element, and our arms and our hands, and our torso, just feeling the sensations of the body, to our pelvic area, and to our legs, and our feet. Now feeling our whole body, earth element. Earth element internally, earth element externally, all the same. And now let's do water element. We know, our blood is liquid. Water element is really anything liquid or phlegmy in the bodies. Let's start with our feet, our beloved feet. Just feeling them. Water element. Moving up to both of our legs. Our lower legs, our upper legs. Water element to our pelvic area. We know water comes out of here pretty regularly. Just feeling the sensations of our behind. Water element to our lower torso. Lots of water in the belly. Water and phlegm and blood. A lot of liquid things. Water element. Our upper torso. Water element. To our shoulders and to our upper arms and our lower arms and our hands. Just feeling the sensations of the arms. Water element coming up to our neck and to our heads We know there's lots of phlegmy stuff in our mouth and in our nasal passages. Our brains are swimming in liquid. Just feeling the sensations of the head. Water element. Coming back into a whole body awareness. Water element internally, water element externally, all the same. Now to fire element. And fire element is temperature. So starting with our beloved heads. Thank you, head. Can we feel any warmth or maybe coolness? Any temperature in the head? Scanning the face and the sides of the head and the back and the top. If there's no temperature, that's absolutely fine. Just welcome whatever sensations are being offered. So to the shoulders and the arms and the torso. And to our pelvic area. Any temperature. To our upper legs and lower legs and feet. Fire element. Coming again to a whole body awareness. Fire element internally, fire element externally, all the same. And finally, air element. Let's start with our feet. We know there's a lot of oxygen in our bodies that we have absolutely no awareness of. But let's start with our feet. And moving up to our lower legs and our upper legs. Holding both of our legs and feet in awareness. Air element. Moving up to our pelvic area. I'm probably the only one that has air coming out of this place, right? Holding our pelvic area in awareness. Moving up to our lower torso. We can feel the breath of the air element. The characteristic of that is pushing. It's an excellent anchor for our meditation too. Moving up to our upper torso. Air element. Upper torso is our lungs, lots of air element in there. To our shoulders and to our upper and lower arms and hands. Holding that in awareness. Holding our shoulders and arms and hands in awareness. Air element. And to our necks, lots of air coming here, and to our faces, the sides and top and back of our heads. Feeling air element at the mouth or at the nose. Coming into a whole body awareness. Air element. Air element internally, air element externally, all the same. Just hold our whole body in awareness. Earth, water, fire and air. Internally, earth, water, fire and air. Externally, all the same. Now, just for a minute, we can rest in spacious awareness. The whole body in awareness. Just rest in spacious awareness. I hope that was okay for everyone. Actually, on the first link to those guided meditations, that's meditation number 2, 4 elements meditation. And you could just do that one if you wanted. Yeah, it's a really great meditation. So do we have any other questions or comments? How was that meditation for all of you? Maybe a few of you could tell us how it was.
I do see we have a question in the chat. Joni was asking, I'm wondering if there are resources on guided meditation that incorporate indigenous language. And then she
There's
provides
not. Yeah.
more context.
So I think we have a job to do. Actually, I've been talking to Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board and IBME. That's another excellent source. IBI_me.org. And yeah, we could absolutely use some indigenous language in that guided meditation. It hasn't been done yet. Yeah. But I think 4 elements meditation is indigenous language, but you know, there's definitely some work to get done there. If anybody wants to help me do that, or you're going to do it and you want me to help, let me know. I'm available. I think there's probably a fair amount of grants out there to do that as well. So anybody else? Any other questions?
Brian, did you want to go ahead? I saw you had your hand raised. Feel free to unmute or type in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with.
Oh yeah, I was just listening to Bonnie answer that question. I think that's a great idea to implement the language in all kind of sessions, whatever sessions that you're, doing for the community, and you can always find someone in the language departments, and I'm implementing that in all of my workshops and trainings. Are the language, and then people to find out the words in their own language. They don't have to use mine. They can find out their own words, do their research, do their work, and implement that. I think it's all part of that whole decolonizing, our way of thinking and our healing process.
Excellent, Brian. I think that that's the number one thing mindfulness can do. It can help us decolonize. When I'm doing my meditation and I have, a bad thought about myself arising, like, oh, you're such an egotist, or, you're no good. What I say to that thought is, I see you, settler. Right, as a way just to acknowledge where all that crazy ideas come from. Absolutely. I think Johnny has his hand up, or their hand up.
Hello. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Williams. I had the question about native language and also prayers within meditation. And in my clinical work, I work with clients on creating their safe place. And many choose a sacred land area that we explore and have a connection to, and have that be the place where the meditation takes place. And then we put their body through somatic healing into this place and connecting to the land. And I was just wondering if there's any resources and materials, because I've been kind of writing and documenting this kind of on my own, in my own little clinical bubble. And I'm wondering if there's any others that are practicing this and have incorporated elements of prayer for spiritual healing into a formal meditation practice.
I haven't done it. I mean, I'm not a clinician. I mean, I do psychiatric epidemiology, but I think that for me, the Brahmaviharas, the may I be safe and protected, may I be happy and peaceful, may I be healthy and strong, may I live with ease. To me, that is a prayer, but I totally get you. I mean, I think spiritual healing is as important as physical healing for us right now. And I love what you said about the somatic element, because, that all of that trauma gets trapped in our bodies. And I'll tell you that doing a body scan actually helps us release that. And, you know, on retreat, I'm actually going on retreat on Saturday, this Saturday, until the end of the month, a 2.5 week retreat. And I absolutely know that during that retreat, I will have sobbing meditation and stomping meditation. But that's just having the, you know, the trauma trapped in my body to let it go. And we need to let it go because trauma in the body absolutely impacts how we perceive things. You know, we can perceive things differently when we have so much trauma left in the body to be released. Yeah. Thank you, Johnny.
Yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your presentation and both the meditation, kind of like the formal meditation practice. I consider myself kind of an integrative clinician, using CBT, incorporating meditation as well as spiritual practice. So
Yes, yeah.
working with clients on identifying their core values and beliefs, and how, you know, negative thoughts can also get trapped in the body, and then we enter the body and the sacred land space through meditation, and then that is a vessel towards healing that then will be their at home spiritual practice as well, kind of leaving them with that daily practice of noticing the thoughts and sensations in the body where they're feeling triggered or outside their window of tolerance, being aware and noticing those areas in the body, and then having the tools to enter their sacred land space. And then I was also wondering, okay, how cool would it be to add this, you know, their own cultural strengths and prayer practice, and also using language to add that element into the meditation, and then also connect them to community, to also do community group, say, you know, healing circles that also include those elements. So it's not such an isolated experience.
Well, I think that you can turn, you know, cultural, tribal values into meditations. You know, may I be generous and kind. May I take care of my elders. You know, I mean, you could, and you know, the list of positive qualities that I got from Standing Rock. I'm sure, you know, there are probably a lot other tribal and urban native communities that also want to strengthen those mental qualities. And that's what this, you know, that's what this psychology is telling us, that we can do self-directed neuroplasticity retraining. It was developed 2,600 years ago, and it is like the latest thing in Western psychology. And you know, our native epistemologies or knowledge systems are knowledge systems of the South. You know, we just live within the North, but the way we've been treated, we're also, according to academia anyway, Southern knowledge system. Yes.
I just wanted to make the observation that our next session in this mental health community of learning is entitled How Discrimination Gets Trapped in the Body. And that session will be on September 1st at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the Zoom, in our chat box, we've entered the links for registering for that session, and you're welcome to register as soon as you leave now. I'd also like to point out that we really need your feedback on the survey link that's been entered into the chat box. So I wanted to make sure that you have an opportunity to complete the survey to give us feedback on today's session, so we can share that, of course, with Bonnie as well as others, and help direct the future of not only the community of learning, but other topics that we may cover to serve our community.
And I just want to quickly say that your next presenter is a dear friend of mine, Tommy Lee Woon. And Tommy Lee Woon, you know, we've talked about somatic healing here, and we know that there's one intervention, somatic experiencing. Tommy was the chairman of the board of the somatic experiencing for like 10 years. So he actually doesn't work with them now because he feels like they're not diverse enough, but he does excellent anti-racist work, and he absolutely knows about how trauma gets trapped in the body. He's an expert on that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to that session.
Yeah.
And our next sessions are actually in the presentation. So if anyone's interested in following up on our community of learning series, it's all going to be in this presentation. So on that note, and just in the interest of time, We are going to move on to the knowledge check, and I just want to quickly thank Dr. Duran again. This was really informative, a lot of great points. So if everyone wants to join me in giving a quick round of applause and take a minute to fill out this quick ending knowledge check poll. So we're going to give about 60 seconds. And if anyone finishes early, feel free to move on to the survey, the satisfaction survey that provides a lot of valuable information that we use to curate our events to meet your needs. And as you're filling that out, I would like to invite you to our future session. As Mark had mentioned before, it's called Mental Health, How Discrimination Gets Trapped in the Body, and it will occur on September 1st, which is a Wednesday, from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. So the same time as today. And then afterwards, we're going to have another wonderful event planned on substance abuse, alcoholism, and opioid misuse best practices for UIOs. And that's going to occur on September 15th. Same time, we're keeping it consistent, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And we look forward to seeing everyone again. And once again, thank you so much for joining us in our session today. And thank you again, Dr. Bonnie Duran, for enlightening us in this